This is my Czech vz.24 pistol. In a previous video, I had diagnosed a failure to fire problem and ended up making a new firing pin. You don't need to have seen that video though, because this is about another issue I ran into. When test shooting with the new firing pin, I had issues with the pistol going into battery. This only happened when chambering the first round in a fresh magazine. I was about to chalk that up to a quirk with the pistol, but a few of you commented your ideas, so I'm going to take a look into it. I'll start off by disassembling the pistol, which is very easy to do so. All it takes is removing this cross pin. Then with the slide removed, I'll get this set aside to look at in a bit. I first want to take a quick detour to see how the firing pin looks. I've only fired 50 rounds through this, so I'm not expecting much wear if I made it correctly. If I didn't, I'd expect to see wear already, a deformed tip, or a mushroomed end. But this looks like it held up just fine to me. I'll get it back into the slide and consider it a success. Someone had also asked to see how the fired cases look. Here's one. The primer looks good. A nice round indentation right in the middle of the primer. Now back to the first round chambering issue. I'm going to start with the easiest test first, and that's looking at the ammo I had fired before. This is the same brand, same bullet type, same weight, same box. I'm going to do what's called a Plunk test. I want to see how each round fits within the chamber, if it will drop in all the way without binding or any other issues. With the barrel stood up, I'll take one round and drop it in from about here. I'm looking for a good, solid plunk, fully seating the round in the chamber. This one is good. I'm purposely doing this with a dirty barrel. I don't want a thin layer of fouling to be the difference between functioning and not. Let's run through the whole box, just to make sure there's no variations within the ammo. The Plunk test is a success, or a failure, depending on how you look at it. All 50 rounds chambered with no issues, but that eliminates the easiest solution to the chambering issue, the ammo. That means the problem is with the pistol itself. Another solution commented on the previous video wasn't just an idea for a solution, it was the best kind of solution, one involving first-hand experience fixing the issue with the same gun. And that was to check this retaining block here. It's fixed within the frame, right here, and it's held in place by the cross pin that I had started this assembly by removing. The purpose of the block is to rotate the barrel as the slide recoils, which it does so through the camming slot in the block and the matching lug in the barrel. These rotate the barrel in and out of lockup. The comment was to check the chamfers at each end of the through hole for sharp edges or burrs, but I don't see any at either end. The spring slides within the block easily, but this could still be the source of the issue. Using a light, the hole inside does look pretty good. but there are these lines that may represent small ridges. They may be the cause of the chambering issue. And that's due to the fit of the block around the spring, but not the simple fit of just sliding them together. I'm going to use the vise to hold the recoil spring guide, simulating how the spring will be compressed when installed. I have the very end held within the jaws. This is how the spring sits at rest, with the slide closed. The retaining block is able to slide back and forth on the spring easily, but the slide closed isn't in the condition where the chambering issue is encountered. That's with the slide fully back and the spring fully compressed. I'll push the guide in to get a hold of more of it within the jaws. Sliding the block on this time, however, I can feel some binding. It's very hard to be able to tell on camera, but it is somewhat dragging. That's because when compressed, the diameter of the spring expands slightly. It also becomes wavy, not straight like it is when relaxed. This could be the cause of the chambering issue. If the block is unable to freely slide back and forth over the spring as it's compressing, that could cause it to bind up. These lines within the retaining block seen earlier could be the culprit. I'll get the block held within the vise in order to polish it with 1000 grit sandpaper. Some of the lines are still there. I'd have to remove material instead of polishing to get rid of them completely, but the surface finish of the hole is much smoother than it was before. I did polish the rounded edges as best as I could, but they're not the same on either side. This one seems to be a bit better. The comment said to put that on the back. This block is reversible, so it can go either way, but I'll keep the slightly larger chamfer at the back. The comment said that the spring coil is bunching up and getting stuck behind the block is what causes the issue. But you've probably already thought this. Maybe it's the spring itself. I got this replacement spring, which wasn't labeled as being extra power, but it does feel a bit stiffer. The wire diameter seems like it's a bit larger. It measures 34 thousandths compared to the original spring at just 30 thousandths. I'll set this aside and try the new spring. In order to see if these changes fix the chambering issue, I'll need to get the pistol reassembled. The barrel slides in, and the front is supported by the bushing. Then comes the recoil spring inside of the block, and that sits on top of the camming lug on the barrel. With the placement of the block being somewhat fragile, I like to reassemble by sliding the frame upside down onto the slide. When tilting it flat, I can push the slide back to just the right spot where the locking pin can fit in. Testing it out, the slide does feel a bit stiffer. It's not much of a difference, but it could be enough to solve the first round chambering issue. At the range, I have the same exact packs of ammo I did the Plunk test with. And then I have one more variable. I had previously been shooting with this magazine, which is serialized to the pistol. But this did come with a spare that has a blank floor plate. I'll load it up in order to try it out. That worked just fine. Although I didn't have any problem with rounds 2 through 5 feeding before, I am still looking for those to feed right. And because of that, I'll try the matching magazine next. That worked fine as well. And since last time I had this out, I now know where the bullets are hitting, to the left of the point of aim. Because of that, I'm aiming at the right edge of the plate. All that testing, including some off-camera, showed the pistol to feed just fine. Here's a look at the loading in slow motion. And shooting. The pistol worked flawlessly. All rounds fed just fine, the first in each magazine, and each subsequent round. So which change did the trick? The polishing of the block, or the new recoil spring? I don't know, and unless I swap back in the old spring, I won't know for sure. But the point is that the pistol is now chambering the first round properly, and that's all that matters. Thanks for watching.